All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. So before we get into today's video, we have a sponsor for today's video, and that sponsor is The Ridge. As you probably know from our previous spots, they make high-quality compact wallets out of metal and elastic, and I've used and loved them for years. But I've recently been fond of the premium Damascus steel style. If you'd like to get yours, you can head to ridge.com/Brozime and enter code Brozime for 10% off. And thanks so much to The Ridge for sponsoring us once again. All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. So today we are going to be doing a why would you use for the STROPHA. Now, obviously, the STROPHA is a weapon I have been using quite a bit on the free-to-play through, and it is an incredibly useful tool that you can get at MR10, I would say, based on my experience on the free-to-play, fairly easily. This weapon does have two very different builds, however, because today we're going to be talking about two builds, and they are essentially the exact same build, but at vastly different budgets, because some people have it all and can put whatever they want on their weapons, and other people have what's reasonable to get. So we're going to try and assist both here today. So first and foremost, the entirely budgetless, let's say, build. This is 4 prime mods deep. This build is, 160,000 plus endo deep here, and these mods are going to be pretty hard to get a hold of. Of course, we have, Primed Fury, Primed Fever Strike, and Primed Pressure Point, which, of course, have, regular equivalents that we are going to be using in the budget build, but these all add damage or speed. And one of the things to note on the STROPHA, this is a heavy attack build, and it is a heavy attack weapon. Don't underestimate how much faster you can heavy attack with just regular attack speed. This does greatly affect the gun blades, and we're going to show that off in particular as well. Because, of course, with Killing Blow and Amalgam Organ Shatter, we have a significant amount of heavy attack wind-up speed, but that is not the only factor in terms of how fast you can fire. But before that, let's show off the budget build real quick here, which is just, as you might have imagined, the regular versions of many things. One of the big notes here is that Voltaic Strike can be a real pain to get because it pretty much only comes from borrow, and is otherwise quite expensive. So yeah, you're probably not going to have this unless you've been really paying attention to borrow or caught up during one of his Tennokan inventories. So on the budgeted build, we're just using, regular Shocking Touch and Virulent Scourge, which is much more accessible, just coming from Corrupted Vor instead. So the only thing that's actually hard to get here is, and a debatable on calling it hard to get, is Corrupt Charge, which is required for pretty much any heavy attack build that you're going to be going into, other than like the hybrid build, which is not what we're discussing in this video today. The thing that is of note greatly on this budget build is that I only have my maxed Sacrificial Steel. In the future, I am going to be doing more budget builds, and I'm going to grab an additional copy of Sacrificial Steel and just put it at rank 8 for the purposes of future budget builds, but we're going to have a little bit more critical chance than like the lowest budget you could have on this build. So while technically this build is above the 40k endo mark, you can really lower that significantly. It's only like 15k if you just take 2 ranks off of Sacrificial Steel. Although Sacrificial Steel is one of the prime mods that I would put pretty high on the list of things that you should level first, as long as you're going to be using heavy attack melee weapons, which are, of course, very, very powerful for new players. So yeah, with this also, of course, this cuts down the amount of Forma that we're going to need quite significantly. We have this 9 extra capacity, so that means we don't need a Forma on here, saving us 4 points. And then we also don't need a Forma on either, Killing Blow or Shocking Touch, which will save us 5 either way that we go. One thing that is worth noting is that you can also save Forma here by, you could do no Forma on 3 slots and just do 1 Forma on Killing Blow if you have the other elemental you want to use. This build is going corrosive, but if you wanted to go viral, of course, you can just put the cold mod here instead that costs 7 on an unformed slot. And that's going to save you points there as well, or Forma. So yeah, that's also a way that you can go about this to really budget it down as much as you can. But I wanted to keep both builds on the same elemental to make things a little more even, and showed the difference between these two builds in this video. So yeah, real quick before we get started though, I wanted to show off the speed differences between things depending on what you've got equipped. Obviously, you're always going to have Killing Blow equipped on a heavy attack focused build, so I'm not going to unequip this and show you what the base speed is, because no one should be doing that. Killing Blow is a very easy to get mod. Just go get it. But I wanted to show the difference between the attack speed and the rest of the heavy attack wind-up speed. So, real quick, base level. This is the slowest speed that you should ever be seeing the STROPHA at. And, you know, it's pretty slow. Yeah, pretty slow there. Even faster, like firing as fast as you can, which is like spamming heavy attack. It's pretty slow. Does a lot of damage. STROPHA is great for that. Even if it's slow, you're going to be pretty happy with it. But adding Amalgam Organ Shatter, going to make it just a little bit faster. As you can see, that is changing pretty specifically the heavy attack wind-up, and it's not really speeding up the in-between animations, which is where attack speed comes in and changes this pretty wildly. So whenever we take our Primed Fury and slot it in, you're going to see a significant change, which is actually marked down here in the projectile section, in just how fast we can fire off these heavies. It is a massive difference, and I would highly suggest, if you're not going to run Primed Fury, you run regular Fury or Quickening or some other such attack speed mod to your liking, because it is quite significant in the difference that it makes. And I know that you can just add, you know, more elemental damage, throwing heat on the end of it, and what have you. But being able to follow-up shot is often better, in my opinion, and this will increase your DPS very significantly on any enemy, of course, where you're going to need to fire more than once, which if you're on the Steel Path is going to be quite often, and if you're going to be going far into, say, a Disruption mission, you're also probably going to have to fire more than once eventually, which is going to significantly decrease your kill time on the late Disruption targets, which are arguably the more important ones. And also, it accounts for you missing sometimes. Nobody's perfect, so when you miss, having the very, very short follow-up is also going to help reduce the impact of that. So yeah, just to show off the speed of things. Now, let's just jump in. We're just going to, of course, I'm just on test cal. I've made myself invincible because, you know, just for the purposes of this, these enemies level 180. It's the normal crew you might have come to expect. I just want to show off the damage of the STROPHA with its full build. Of course, you're going to want to take out the Ancients first. And you can see, even on these enemies, having to fire more than once sometimes is going to be the case. Obviously, on, like, you know, regular enemies, you're normally not going to be heavy attack spamming the STROPHA, although if you were a new player, you might. But this is, you know, an effective way to go about this. Only usually on heavy targets that you can't hit with other things are you going to be opening up the STROPHA on them. But that's pretty efficient. Now, if we were to save ourselves multiple Forma and 100,000 plus Endo, we would be using this build. This build is also notably not using Amalgam Organ Shatter. It's just using regular Organ Shatter just to get a little bit more damage in there, and also because Amalgam Organ Shatter can honestly be kind of a pain for players to acquire. So I've decided just to use regular in this build, and honestly, it's not too bad. Just Killing Blow and regular Fury makes a big difference all on its own, and you're going to see that during the test. But yeah, this is the significantly cheaper budget build, just to show you the difference on what you can get on this weapon. Of course, taking out the Ancients first, as you would. You can see that barely making it 3 shots on the heavy gunner there. The rest of these looking mighty similar. I think that's 1 extra shot on the Bombards as well. Well, maybe 2 extra shots on this one. There we go. But yeah, you can see the difference between the efficiency of either build is obviously this budget build is slightly worse, but it is slight. I would say that it is not a massive difference. And that is honestly what makes the STROPHA one of the best weapons to have as a newer player, because on a budgeted build like this, you get very similar performance to these, you know, very high-end, hard-to-get builds. So yeah, The STROPHA is a fantastic weapon. I think everyone should have it in their arsenal, especially if you're going to be going after, disruptions into like, a couple hours into disruption or whatnot. STROPHA is fantastic for that, especially if you're going to bring a damage buff with you, roar, eclipse, what have you. Fantastic for doing missions like that, and just any kind of really hard target that you're, if you got status focused weapons in your other slots, bringing the STROPHA along to shore up your ability just to do a very large, massive amount of damage up front can really help out, and is also very good against acolytes. But yeah, that is going to do it for this video. Just want to talk about the STROPHA and kind of update where things are. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I will see you tomorrow.